damage, excuse me, so that when you play Death Shadow, it's going to be able to kill the opponent quickly.
How awesome is it that he's playing 2 Underground Seas and 2 Watery Graves?
I know.
Because Watery Grave has the special ability of letting you hurt yourself.
Greg and I were talking earlier this week. I hung out with him on Friday talking about potential lines of play, including Snuff Out my own creature for it to get bigger, and in response, Snuff Out it again. You know, just anything to get his life total low so that his Death Shadow is larger to kill the opponent with.
Now he's got Dismember, Snuff Out, Gitaxian Probe, Thoughtseize, Fetch Lands, Watery Grave, and Dark Confidant to hurt himself.
Don't forget about Force of Will.
And Force of Will.
Take 1.
Absolutely. On the other side, Jason Abong playing stock Rug Delver. But the craziest thing going on is that he has Stifle and Spell Pierce.
4 Stifles in his main, 3 Spell Pierce his main as well, and 2 Grim Lavamancers, which isn't seen a ton. I know that Travis Gibson played a couple in his Rug Delver deck list that he won his Legacy Open with a few weeks ago. So I don't know if that's really catching on or not. I think with the addition of Hypergenesis in the metagame, it may find its way out. But those Stifles do counter Cascade on Hypergenesis, so Stifle could become a major player now.
Rough Tumble, kind of a fun sideboard card. It has the advantage over Pyroclasm. It does, for those who are not familiar, it's 1 in a red, deal 2 damage to each non-flying creature.
Okay.
Or for 6 mana, you can deal 6 damage to all flying creatures.
Okay.
And it's got kind of the fun advantage over Pyroclasm of not killing your own Delvers.
Makes sense.
Plus, sometimes, I mean, once in a while the game will go long and you might actually deal 6 to flyers, but that's unlikely. Most of the time, you just want to not kill your Delver.
As we see, both players have kept their opening 7. Jason led with just a Wooded Foothills, and Greg is attempting to fetch with a Misty Rainforest. And what Greg doesn't know is that Jason has Stifles in his deck, and Wooded Foothills is not really a giveaway of anything. By Wooded Foothills go, it can be numerous different decks in Legacy.
For sure. That is not the read of look out for Stifle.
And it's interesting to look at Jason's fetch land choices for this tournament. He has 3 Wooded Foothills and 4 Polluted Deltas. Those are very misleading dual lands to have in your deck when you're playing Rug, because you're not entirely sure, like, if you play Wooded Foothills Go, you could be Goblins, you could be Zoo, you could be a lot of different decks. Whereas if it's a Misty Rainforest, for example, it kind of makes you think that it's, you know, maybe more of a Stifle, maybe a Rug Delver deck. So
it's good for the misdirection, with the primary cost being, of course, he can't go get. It shows the opponent that you can't go get Basic Island.
Yes. As we see that Greg's Misty Rainforest does resolve, and we're going to see a Delver of Secrets on turn 1. There's going to be a Thought Scour in response here by Jason. Tarmogoyf and Brainstorm are going away and drawing a card for the day. We're going to see a
Days on the Delver of Secrets.
We'll see if Greg's going to choose to fight back with either a Daze or a Force of Will if he has one. And he is not.
So Jason's surveying his options. Apologize for the noise in the background. It looks like actually Cobra Commander is, in all seriousness, Cobra Commander has set up shop near us. And it looks like the forces of Cobra are alive and well.
Indeed. As we see a Delver of Secrets here from Jason. Greg has untapped. He's considering his options this turn. He does have a Wasteland in his hand that you guys can see on the right, among other options. So we're going to see what he's going to do here.
And Jason's deck was particularly vulnerable to Wasteland.
Yes.
No basics, just 6 actual lands that tap for colored mana.
As we see our Wasteland being used here by Greg.
Greg has the very real possibility of actually locking out one of Jason's 2 colors. Now, if he just focuses the green, he could end up making Scavenging Ooze, Tarmogoyf, and Nimble Mongoose uncastable.
As we're going to see a Ponder here after the Wasteland.
Ponder, deciding what to do with it. He likes these. Have you noticed just how often people keep in Legacy with Ponder?
Quite a bit more than Standard, I think.
Man.
Quite a bit more. As Delver is not going to flip. We are going to see an attack 1 here by Jason to put Greg down to 18.
Now, this is interesting. Stifle provides an extra round of defense against Wasteland on the fetch land, or on the basics, on the duels.
Coming up in 10 minutes. Don't miss it.
Greg. We have a Polluted Delta here. We're going to cast a, what looks to be a Brainstorm main phase. And it is. Of course, the Brainstorm fetchland interaction, one of the interactions that Legacy is built on. Stifle does a nice job of breaking that up, or making it not as broken as it can be.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't miss the charity raffle at the secret headquarters, booth number
Hatch
923.
debating on which 2 cards to put back.
You could win a limited edition comic quilt.
Snuff Out
an
is
issue of
absolutely
X-Men
fantastic
#1
in this matchup.
signed
Great
by
matchup.
Stan
Being able to
Lee.
hit Delver of Secrets,
Also
to Tarmogoyf,
available,
any
you
of
can
that.
purchase exclusive Kamikaze t-shirts for $10. Please don't miss it. Celebrity raffle at the secret headquarters booth number 923.
It's really interesting too to see how much Death Shadow changes the equation for how valuable it is to pay your life. Because every life you pay ends up being an extra damage every turn. And a bigger body to make sure that you win the fight against things like Tarmogoyf or sometimes even Knight of the Reliquary.
What's interesting here is the way that Greg is setting up the way he's putting back his Brainstorm. Because what I believe is that he's kind of setting things up, and you're trying to figure out if Stifle's in his mind right now of cards that are going to blow out the Polluted Delta, because there's no guarantee that Polluted Delta is going to be able to search out a land, shuffle his deck, everything that he wants it to do, and there's
The Stifle.
And you can see, you can see the little pause there by Greg.
Hesitates.
As now Greg has a Daze in his hand and actually has to consider using it.
I think he's gonna. Yeah.
Yep.
Because even though he loses the land in play, he gets the land from the Delta.
Yep.
It just means he has another land in his hand instead of a Daze in his hand.
And now he has to consider, of course, am I going to search for a non-basic, open myself up to Wasteland? Am I going to search for a basic Swamp, which I have one of in my deck? There's a lot of decisions in the opening turns of Legacy. That's what makes it a great format.
It does. When a guy has Stifle, you know he's going to have Wasteland too, and he just wants to make sure his mana works. Now that he has an Island and a Swamp, those 2 cards together cast almost every card in his deck. Everything short of Hymn to Turok, right?
Yep. As we are going to see a Thoughtseize here from Greg. Going to get the information from Jason.
Is that a Scavenging Ooze?
I see a Scavenging Ooze, 2 Wooded Foothills, and a Tropical
A
Island.
Volcanic Island. Yeah.
Or, excuse me, a Volcanic Island. Thank you.
And that means that Jason's going to be left with 4 mana, which is definitely a bit of a flood for his deck, and a Delver of Secrets. Hatch, meanwhile, plenty of gas, but a little bit behind in tempo. I like Hatch's chances here.
So we see a Lightning Bolt revealed. And now we're going to see the Snuff Out from Hatch.
Yeah.
Pushing him down to 11.
Yep, this is no question a real good spot for Hatch. It is possible that he could slip away if Jason gets a Nimble Mongoose down or something like that. But for the time being, Jason is mana flooded. Hatch successfully brainstorming. Now the thing about Legacy though is that even when you're mana flooded, you're always just a single brainstorm away from greatness.
Yeah, from being unmana flooded.
Absolutely.
So we see an island here from Greg, and Greg looks to have a Delver of his own. Jason takes a draw step. As you guys do see Snuff Out on the screen now. For those of you guys unfamiliar, if you do control Swamp, you can pay 4 life instead of paying the casting cost for Snuff Out. It's going to be destroy a non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. And the goal of Greg's deck, of course, is to lose as much life as it possibly can to power up Death's Shadow. So interacts very well with his deck. So we see a Delver of Secrets from Jason. We're going to see a Brainstorm main face here by Greg. Greg does know that Jason only has a Wooded Foothills left in his hand.
Man, it's so tough because these brainstorms beget more brainstorms, you know? Once you start brainstorming, your odds of finding more brainstorms and more ponders and things like that just increase. Meanwhile, Jason having to do it the old-fashioned way, just off the top.
Yep. No manipulation yet for him.
He does have access to the Delver Fetch Lane combo, which is kind of an underrated little aspect. You can look, see the top card of your deck, and if it's like a Lightning Bolt or something else you don't want, you can shuffle it away.
That's
Give
true.
yourself another shot. In particular, if you have another land on top where you're like, okay, I've had enough of those.
That's an interaction you don't find in Standard that you do find in the older formats. So we're going to see a Wasteland here from Greg. We'll snuff out a Sensei's Divining Top and a Mystery Blue card. I believe it is a Ponder in Hatch's hand.
It now costing Hatch that he has Basic Swamp instead of Underground Sea.
Yep.
I mean, I think he'd rather just slow play it, but if he had Underground Sea, he could cast the Ponder this turn.
So we see a snuff out here from Hatch, and now it's Sensei's Divining Top. How do you feel about the timing of that?
I like the snuff out there instead of waiting to reveal because he has access to Wooded Foothills.
Sure.
You could always just shuffle it away. Don't give Jason the information.
Okay. We're going to see a Thought Scour here. Stifle go by, 2 Stifles go by, and a Nimble Mongoose drawn. So a pretty good draw off of that Thought Scour for Jason. This is going to be a powered up Nimble Mongoose, and something that Hatch is not going to be able to snuff out due to its untargetability.
I mean, Hatch basically has to find a Death Shadow to actually deal with that, right? Like, he has no actual answers. Is that correct? He has just a single Diabolic Edict.
Okay.
But beyond that, he has nothing other than chump blocking, or just blocking it all, you know? And Death Shadow is the primary way to do that.
So now he's gotten his life total to a relatively low amount to make Death Shadow a realistic threat. He just needs to find one now. And with the manipulation of Sensei's Divining Top, it'll make things a little bit easier. He can use a fetch land to get a shuffle in there, but he doesn't have that right now. As Nimble Mongoose does resolve.
Ash is going to take a look, see what's the third card down from the Sensei's Divining Top. How does he want to tap? Decides to tap is colorless.
Now, how do you feel about? I'm not nearly as well versed in Sensei's Divining Top as you are. He has a Ponder in his hand right now. Should you top there to find the third card, or should you ponder there to find it, to look at the third card?
I mean, it depends. Like, if he's got a fetch land in his hand, like, he might want to just look, shuffle, ponder. And again, he might want to save the Ponder for when he has a fetch land.
Okay.
So he might be topping, looking for a fetch land, so then he can ponder and keep his best card. And besides, in this spot, he wants to flip. He wants to make sure his Delver flips anyway.
Sure.
So I think it's totally reasonable to do it the way he's doing it.
Fantastic draw step for Jason. Draws a Lightning Bolt to be able to take care of that Delver's Secrets / Insectile Aberration if it does flip.
Now, is that his second lightning? He has just one Lightning Bolt in his hand, right?
He has one Lightning Bolt and a Wooded Foothills in his hand, but this is the second Lightning Bolt that he has drawn this game.
So this knocks Hatch to 4, which means that a Lightning Bolt is lethal if Hatch tries to activate a fetch land.
Correct. That's something that he has to be aware of too. That this game has really turned, and what I felt was in Hatch's favor once the Thoughtseize resolved, and we just saw a handful of lands from Jason.
Oh wow, Brainstorm is definitely exactly where Hatch wants to be. Now it's interesting though, he doesn't really have that many ways to interact with Lightning Bolt, the card. You know, I mean, he's got 4 Force of Wills, but it is a tough grind to try to Force of Will the old Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, as it looks like we're going to see a Sensei's Divining Top activation. 3 cards. And this is exactly as powerful of a card as Brainstorm in. It's the kind of card right now that is big trouble for Hatch, because as you said, all it takes is one fetch land, and then a Lightning Bolt's going to kill him. Brainstorm, at least when I draw or cast a Brainstorm, the first thing I'm thinking about is a fetch land to put those 2 cards away.
So Hatch, starting it off by topping again, wants to save his library manipulation for the last possible moment. I think he just wants to give himself the best chances to be able to advance the game, both stopping the Insectile Aberration from getting killed and making sure he has a game plan for after the Mongoose and the Insect trade, if they ever did. The main thing he's got to be wary of course, cards like Lightning Bolt.
Posturing, considering a few things here.
And we are going to see a Ponder. Now it makes sense. It makes the most sense to have Ponder come first because he already saw the top of his deck and he was not impressed by it. Brainstorm, on the other hand, the type of thing that you want to do after after you get a fresh shuffle, so you get a chance to draw several good cards.
And we are going to see that Ponder.
Ponder resolves.
And he's just going to shuffle immediately.
Yep.
Knowing that those cards are not going to help him in this situation. Really, really, really looking for a Death Shadow right now.
He's got that black mana burning a hole in his mana pool.
Yes. No, what, is that it?
Looked like it.
It looked like it was.
That looked like it. No.
Okay, since it's Divining Top.
So there's a Force of Will. So there is that. Probably leave the Force of Will on top in case, you know, if things get messy, he's going to want to make sure that he can get that Force of Will at the top and pitch the Brainstorm, you know, if it comes to that.
Absolutely. He's going to play a fetch land. He's just going to pass.
Jason, the alarm has gone off. Is that another bolt?
Yes.
Wow.
Unreal. A third lightning bolt here from Jason Abong.
So now, if you're Jason, do you bolt the insect here? Because your Mongoose is like a bolt anyway, right? So you got to start by just bolting the insect and attacking, right?
I mean, either start by bolting the insect or just it's either bolt the insect or just attack right away.
Well, why attack? They'll just trade.
Sure. Okay, then I would agree that bolting the insect is correct.
It's not every day you bolt the insect when your opponent's at 4 and you have 2 bolts in hand.
And we're going to see Greg activate the top, draw Force of Will, putting himself down to 3,
which means
Jason's going to show you the next bolt.
All right, and we're on to game 2.
Jason
Exciting
Abong
match.
up a game here with his Rug Delver deck against Gregory Hatch and his Death Shadows deck. Greg is going to be on the play for game 2, and looking at his sideboard and things that he can change. 3 Parish is going to be a big one, for sure. Parish taking care of Nimble Mongoose, taking care of Tarmogoyf and the Singular Scavenging Ooze. You're also going to find a Diabolic Edict, which is relatively nice, and a 4th Hymn to Torak in the sideboard as well.
What do you think about the Nile Spellbound? Its ability to shut off Tarmogoyf, Nimble Mongoose, even slowing down Grim Lavamancer potentially. Is that worth it, or is it just too slow?
I don't actually hate it. I don't think it's too slow for sure. It's just a question of, does he have enough cards to sideboard out where he's going to want that effect and want to board that card in? So I think it's very obvious that the 3 Parishes and the Diabolic Edict and probably the Hymn to Torak are going to join us. So that's 5 cards. Nile Spellbound would be a 6th one. And does he have 6 cards from his main deck that he wants to side out? That'll be the question.
Interesting. On the other side, Jason Abong, looking at 2 red elemental blasts. I think that's, I don't think he wants Life from the Loam, right? Like, this isn't a grindy enough matchup.
I don't feel like this is grindy enough that you want to take that angle of attack, no.
Do you think it's possible that he Gilded Drakes to steal Death Shadow?
I don't think that's out of the question. However, Greg does have Jason saw at least 2 snuff outs that game.
That's true.
So there's no real guarantee that a Gilded Drake is going to actually live.
What do you think about neither of these decks having Snapcaster Mage?
I'm not terribly surprised. The way that Legacy is shaped up, especially Rug Delver has always had access to Snapcaster Mage and has chosen to not play it.
Wanting just to have the most tempo it can, right?
Yes. So I'm not terribly surprised to see no Snapcaster Mages here. I think that eventually Legacy will adopt Snapcaster Mage. It does in some of the Tundra decks, especially in combination with Swords of Plowshares and Path Exile. But for these Rug Delver decks and for this Death Shadow deck, it doesn't really seem to be a perfect fit.
So are we mostly just going to see 2 red blasts and 1 Flusterstorm out of Jason?
I'd be a little bit surprised to see the Flusterstorm, but 2 red blasts make sense to me. And even red blast isn't great in this matchup. It's fine, but it doesn't deal with the primary threats, which are the Dark Confidant, Death Shadow, Hymn to Torak. The black cards are the cards that are troublesome for Jason.
Interesting. All right. Yeah, red elemental blast mainly just trying to trade with a Ponder or a Brainstorm. Wow, it's interesting. How many cards does Hatch actually have that are blue? Because this is pretty close to the minimum here, right?
Looking at Hatch's deck list, there are 4 Delver Secrets, there are 4 Brainstorms, 4 Force of Wills, 2 copies of Ponder, and then 4 copies of Gataxian Probe and 4 copies of Daze. So a decent amount of blue cards, not as many as you would find in other decks though.
18 blue cards besides Force of Will. Not a ton. Not the fewest though. I've certainly seen people run fewer.
As both players are shuffling over game 2, Hatch probably thinking to himself, I felt pretty good after that Thoughtseize resolved.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, what exactly happened there? Well, you do draw a card every turn in this wonderful game, so anything can happen.
It is wild that this is the same format as the format we were just watching. Not just the combo, but then the Maverick versus Blue-White. And now we're seeing Blue-Black Death Shadow versus Rug Delver. This format is wild.
Greg is happy with his 7. Let's see if Jason's okay with his. Jason's okay. And off to the races.
Hatch now having to be very careful about his mana base. Does not want to get wrecked by Stifle again.
Indeed.
Gonna see a turn 1 Ponder most likely.
We'll see Hatch sacrifice the Flooded Strand right now. Does not want to open himself up to Stifle at all. See if he opts to search for a basic or one of his dual lands. Dual land will open himself up to Wasteland, but looking at his opening hand, doesn't look like he has a ton of mana sources, but I do see a Ponder hanging out over there.
Interesting. Hatch does need to pick up the pace a little bit. This is a very long decision on resolving Flooded Strand.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. As we do see a Watery Grave here from Hatch, wanting to deal himself damage, putting himself down to 17. And we will likely see a Ponder here on turn 1.
Interesting. Wasting no time getting Watery Grave.
Yep.
Well, maybe wasting a little time, but getting Watery Grave in the end. Hatch making sure there's plenty of mana on top of his deck in case things go south and he gets wastelanded a bit. The fact that he gets Watery Grave now, that kind of telegraphs he has to have the Death Shadow, right?
I would like to believe so, yes.
Or does he? Or is it all just a ruse? Is this just in preparation for eventually shadowing?
I mean, you know, the way him searching for a Watery Grave there instead of searching for a basic land, you know, he could have been trying to induce a Wasteland on turn 1 from Jason. There are a lot of things, you know, that go into that decision.
You know, he chose not to daze the Delver of Secrets. What do you think about that?
Well, he does have a Hymn to Torak in his hand. I think he wants to fight over resolving Hymn to Torak versus fighting over a Daze. Or excuse me, fighting over a Delver of Secrets. And there might be a Snuff Out lurking there too.
Yeah, if he Hymn to Toroks, draws out the Daze, and then dazes the Daze, that's going to leave Jason very short on resources, particularly if Hatch can just snuff out the Delver.
So you see Hatch tapping for mana here. He's going what looks to be leading with a Duress.
What do you think about that play?
I'm a little surprised, honestly. I feel like, unless he does have a Brainstorm in his hand, so fetching right away does not seem ideal without getting your shuffle off of Brainstorm. It almost makes me think that he wants to actually lead with Brainstorm and then Duress him, instead of leading with Duress and then having to say go, Delver either flips or doesn't flip, and then having to cast a Brainstorm to get his value.
So I like Duressing the Ponder here. Like now that you're here and then you're looking at this grip,
Yes.
take Ponder.
Yes,
Let
absolutely.
him keep the Force of Will.
Make him draw a blue card
Absolutely.
to turn on that Force of Will.
Because if you take the Force of Will, he has access to Ponder. And Ponder can, you know, find whatever it is he needs. And Ponder's a lot more valuable if you're getting him to Torox than Force of Will.
And he selects Lightning Bolt.
Interesting. What do you make of that? Is that because Hatch has a... What do you make of that?
I'm not sure. I have to get a better look at his hand.
Is it that he wants Jason to Force of Will the
Snuff Out, maybe?
and then get walk face first into a daze? Like next turn, he him to Torox. Jason taps out, plays a Tarmogoyf. He's not gonna Force of Will the him to Torox though. I don't know.
I'm very surprised by this line of play. As we search for another Watery Grave here, Hatch is going to move down to, I believe, either somewhere in the vicinity of 9 to 10 life. I am very, very surprised by that play. I'm sure there's a method to his madness, and I'm interested to find out what it's going to be. As we are going to see... All right, that clears it up a little bit, Patrick. Greg has a Death Shadow. It's going to force Jason to Force of Will it. Greg has a Daze for the Force of Will. Now Jason only has 2 Tarmogoyfs in a land, and Tarmogoyf does not fight well against Death Shadow.
And the Death Shadow, a 3/3.
For now,
if his opponent would have had a Lightning Bolt,
it would be dead.
So, Greg Hatch, definitely a method to his madness. Legacy, a format where people play the weirdest stuff. Death Shadow this round. That Horseman stuff last round. I can't even imagine what we're going to see next.
Can't wait to see what we're going to see next in this game. As Greg is going to draw his card for the turn, Sensei's Divining Top.
Now it's funny, without mana burn, it is harder to get your shadow to just shrink, you know? So for the time being, the Tarmogoyf is actually a little bigger, right? But if the Tarmogoyf ever hits Hatch, it's hopelessly outclassed.
Yeah, then it gets bigger. So it's a little mini game inside of the greater game. As we see a Gataxian Probe in Hatch's hand right now, so he can't actually make it bigger. Want to get a power toughness check on that Tarmogoyf, see exactly how large that is right now. I believe either a 3/4 or a 4/5, but
there's instants, creatures, land. It's a 3/4.
I believe there may be a sorcery as well, but I'm not positive. I think there was a Ponder cast.
The Ponder got exiled, right?
The Ponder got removed to Forcible on this side. I believe Greg may have cast a Ponder on his side, though. We don't have a good look at his graveyard. As we see a Watery Grave coming back into play untapped. One of the interactions in this deck, Patrick, is that when you do Daze with Watery Grave, you can actually pick it up and then play it again.
Yep. Take 2 more.
Yep.
You have an engine capable of damaging yourself multiple times.
As we are going to see a Hymnotorak here, getting rid of the Tarmogoyf and the fetch land, leaving Jason cardless. But if you remember last game, all he had was lands, and he seemed to do okay.
And so now this Death Shadow is a 5/5 versus a 4/5 Tarmogoyf. Death Shadow has the edge on the battlefield, and Hatch actually has multiple cards in hand.
This attack is risky, right? Because attacking Jason for 5, putting him on 13 is fine, but then Tarmogoyf comes across, puts Greg down to 4. And then it's going to kind of turn on the lightning bolts and everything else in Jason's deck.
Now, how is Jason going to break through this Death Shadow?
That's going to be tough. That's why Death Shadow is the threat of choice in this deck. That's why the deck goes through so much work to build such a large one, because a deck like Rug Delver can't do anything to get through it. As we are going to see a Gataxian Probe here from Greg, putting him down to 6. And he will see a Brainstorm there from Jason.
Brainstorm, a great card for hiding your true intentions.
And Greg will be casting one of his own now. And Greg did just draw a Snuff Out off of his Brainstorm. So now we're going to get ourselves in a sticky situation here. Because Snuff Out can take care of the Tarmogoyf, it can put Greg down to 2.
And now you're looking at Lightning Bolt.
And now you're putting yourself in Lightning Bolt range, but he's also putting Jason into 2 attack steps with Death Shadow. So now you have to really, really balance your life total, what you can do. And you know that Jason has a Lightning Bolt in his hand, a Brainstorm in his hand, which is even more terrifying.
You think he just goes for it? Does he just say, you know what, I'm going to put you on a 2-turn clock here? Not even a 2-turn clock, a 1-turn clock. If you got Lightning Bolt, you got me. But it's so dangerous because his opponent has Brainstorm.
Brainstorm gives him an additional 3 draws at it. Oof. What we could be seeing here, and this is something I thought he may consider. What we could be seeing here is just
Classic
in with Death Shadow, yeah, and just Delver is just there simply to chump block, nothing else.
So this is in for 7. He actually drew it.
Jason draws a Lightning Bolt literally on command.
Wow. So
every time he's needed a lightning bolt this match, it has appeared from the top of his deck. Incredible.
So he can lightning bolt the Delver to get through, but if he does that, the Death Shadow will kill him on the crackback.
Yes.
So he can't even go that route.
And if Greg ever pulls the trigger on the Snuff Out in his hand,
kill him immediately.
He dies.
Wow. What an intense game.
All right, we're gonna see a brainstorm here. Another. Oh my God.
That's a red mana with a second bolt.
Another brainstorm. Now he has to put 2 of these cards back, of course.
Wow, he can't do it now. Now, granted, he can win the game next turn if Hatch bricks, but he's gonna have to wait.
No, I really like the keeping of the fetch line here. It's the posturing of I'm going to shuffle with brainstorm. You know, that play is there, even though it's something that he's likely not to make.
Yep. Plus, this way, if weird things start going down, he could potentially pay for a daze. He'd lose the lightning bolt on top of his deck, but he does have that option.
Yep.
And if he gets hit with a duress, he doesn't want to be stuck with 2 bolts in his hand.
Yep. So now Greg.
The burden is on Greg. He doesn't know it, but he's facing looming doom.
And when you're in the situation that Greg is in, knowing that he has a Snuff Out in his hand that he's going to want to cast as he's going to reveal a card to his Delver, knowing that Greg knows that he has a Snuff Out in his hand and he's going to want to use the alternate casting cost on it, he also knows that it's going to take him down to 2 life. And so the first card that springs to mind, especially after last game, is Lightning Bolt. It's something he has to be wary of the entire game for the rest of the game. As he does draw a card, and it is a daze.
So he attacks with both because the fetch land in play is threatening to be the 11th point of damage if the Tarmogoyf doesn't chump. What a crazy game.
This game is awesome.
I think Jason has it won though, right?
I mean, there's potential that he doesn't see the onboard trick. With Polluted Delta, because I mean some people just simply aren't familiar with that interaction, because who's played against Death Shadow? As he does opt to block.
Tarmogoyf chump blocking Death Shadow.
Putting Jason down to 8.
Now Jason looks like he's all in on I'm just gonna bolt you and bolt you again.
On the end step. Now this is where it gets good.
Because Hatch knows, oh my God, he wasn't supposed to do it now.
Yes.
He was supposed to wait and untap.
Hatch has to daze this. He has to daze it.
Oh my God. Jason was supposed to wait till his own upkeep.
Yep.
Or not even upkeep. He could just wait, draw, bolt, and then
draw the other bolt.
Oh, and then he can fetch up the volcanic. Wow.
All Jason had to do was untap. As we have a daze there, and now he has to crack.
Wow, what an intense end. Wow.
And he does pay putting Greg down to 3, and so now Greg is going to move down to 3 life.
And now he's going to have to draw the bolt natural. He could have had it for sure.
Yes.
Man. Suddenly, a nearly locked up game slips away.
Things have taken many turns in these 2 games that we have played.
That escalated quickly.
Yes. Yes, it did.
Wow. And there's only 2 bolts in his deck.
And so now, interesting, looks like there's some miscommunication here about if he was going to pay, when he was fetching. I'm trying to get an idea of what's going on here.
I assume they want to make sure that he actually fetched and paid.
Sure. You know, was he fetching after the bolt got dazed? Was he fetching to pay for the daze?
All right.
Draw a card.
So Jason at 7, Hatch at 3.
Nimble Mongoose. Gives him a turn to chump block.
Yep. This is good for a blocker. He's going to fall to 4, but he gets another look.
Paris says, "Get out of my way, kill you."
Wow, so Hatch pulls off quite the little coup there, moving to game 3.
Woo! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
We got ourselves a live one.
Yes, we do, Sarge.
So going into game 3, Jason Abong is going to be on the play with Rug Delver, and this is definitely a matchup where you want to be on the play. Those stifles on fetch lands can be brutal.
And I know that in that little sequence on turn 2 for Greg, when he chose to duress instead of all the other options that were present for him, we were considering his options that turn, and what looked to be a dubious play actually ended up working out masterfully for him. He ended up taking the lightning bolt and then setting things up with the force of will, forcing him to force of will, dazing the force of will, just making everything work out. His sequencing was incredible that turn. For what I thought was poor sequencing, ended up being fantastic sequencing, and it likely led him to winning, or at least being in a winning position. As we see both players shuffling, kind of smiling, taking in what was a very good game of Magic.
Back and forth, back and forth.
Greg, reconsidering a sideboard configuration, we see some cards moving in, we see some cards moving out. Do you think anything changes on either end for either player, Patrick?
Probably not. I mean, it's possible that being on the play changes some of their decisions on things like duress or flusterstorm or anything like that, where it may be particularly relevant if you think you can hit the other person's ponder before, because like if the ponder goes first, then duress doesn't have a chance to do it, or if ponder goes first, you wanted the mana for flusterstorm. So it's possible that you might want a little bit more of that type of stuff if you're on the play, but probably not too much of a fundamental change to their sideboarding plans.
Okay. I don't think a ton changes here. I do see Greg, reaching, moving cards in, moving cards out, possibly posturing, acting like he's sideboarding some things in, back out, back in. That's part of the fun that comes along with sideboarding for a matchup. But we will see. This matchup feels about as close as it can really get in Legacy. I don't know which side favors the other.
I like being on the play. I know that much.
It's a big deal.
But I like Hatch's sideboard way better than Jason's. Dread and Diabolic Edict so much more relevant than Red Elemental Blast.
Yes.
So game 1, hard to say, but now that we're here, I like that sideboard so much.
And you did see when Jason was shuffling his deck for that Wooded Foothills at the end, we did go by Red Elemental Blast, so he did bring them in.
Absolutely. It's hard to bring in. It's hard to not bring in Red Elemental Blast against anybody who has Brainstorm.
I agree. And anyone that Delver's Secrets in their deck, just to nuke that bad boy.
An exciting day of Legacy already. Wow, and this is only the second televised round. Excellent turnout today. We're going to be playing 9 rounds of Legacy.
We'll be going all night long.
Hell yeah. My understanding is that they're actually going to shut the air conditioning off in the convention hall.
I heard about that.
Leave.
I didn't want to bring that to the forefront.
Nice little feature.
Hey, LA. Only in LA.
Which is an interesting combination with the 101-degree temperature outside of the building right now.
Hey,
but
cosplay, conventions, In-N-Out Burger, no air conditioning. Only in LA.
Yeah, some of the cosplaying going on here, I do not think is going to mesh well with no air conditioning. Now, most of the cosplay people will probably leave before they shut the air conditioning off, which won't be until after the convention ends. However, today we're looking at a long day of Legacy. We're going to go hard into the night, and it's going to get kind of grimy here after hours when we cut to this top 8.
Anything can happen
This is
on my
Legacy.
television. This is Legacy.
Dude, this is Legacy. This is the way Garfield had intended it. Outside of obviously Garfield didn't really intend for there to be a 4 of rule or anything like that. But
sure.
And certainly no mana cheats. But I guess unless you consider like Black Lotus a mana cheat, but
it depends on who you ask.
Yeah. All right, so it looks like both players reasonably happy with their draws. It is impressive to see the power of Lightning Bolt in this matchup.
It's crazy because in some aspects it's quite bad, and in some areas it's really good, and then it just gets super dangerous as well. You know, Lightning Bolt does such like a nice job of like keeping control of some of Greg's threats, but Death Shadow just laughs it off. And if you bolt him, it gets bigger. And then the lower you go, the better Lightning Bolt gets, but then the better Death Shadows get. I love how it just works.
Lightning Bolt on the short list of best cards in Modern. Is it correct that 15 people played Lightning Bolts at the World Cup, or at the Players' Championship? Is that right? 14 people, something like that?
As we see a Wasteland on upkeep here from Greg to try to take out the Trop, we're going to see a Brainstorm here from Jason.
There's a lot of business.
There are a lot of spells and not a lot of lands.
Oh, it is a long...
He's got to draw his card for the turn, and he's going to say
It is a long wait when you get your only blue mana Wastelanded, you Brainstorm in response and brick. It's going to be a few turns. I think Greg's got a chance to really develop his game plan while Jason sits here.
As we're going to see a Delver of Secrets here from Greg.
He has to force a load. He's got to get something going, but it's not going to matter. He's walking face first into a daze. So Delver of Secrets with a few cards in hand versus no mana. Jason kind of free roll in the Force Will because he'd have to discard anyway.
Yep. And we do see that interaction again with Watery Grave being untapped twice because of a daze, taking Greg's own life total down, which is what he wants to have happen. There's a Polluted Delta. Wow. So it was the cards after the Brainstorm.
Yep. Which, obviously Jason may be a little, a little disappointed to have missed on the Brainstorm, but at least the very next hit was there.
So Jason's going to be able to play with them, and we do know that he has a Grim Lavamancer in his hand along with those Lightning Bolts that we did talk about. He does have at least one, potentially two Lightning Bolts in his hand.
And we're going to see him a Grim Lavamancer here, which is, that's going to completely take over the board here if Hatch can't find one of his 2 Diabolic Edicts or 3 Snuff Outs, I guess, or a Dismember.
As we see no flip from Delver of Secrets here again from Hatch. Hatch is going to come across for 2. Any interest in chump blocking there for you with the Grim Lavamancer?
Not a chance. Grim Lavamancer is going to tear those Delvers down. Just mow them down.
So we see a 3rd Delver.
Hatch going to try to power through it.
Yeah. He's going to do his best, and we see a 2nd land here off the top for Jason.
What he wanted.
Turning this game around again. He's got all these red cards in his hand. If that was a tropical island, he wouldn't be able to empty his hand fast enough.
I think we're going to see. Yep.
We're going to see a Lightning
Bolt on one of the Delvers. Grim Lavamancer shooting another. Because all he wants to do is make sure that he stays enough ahead of the game that he doesn't get beat down by a bunch of 3/2 flyers,
So finally, Delver of Secrets is able to flip, revealing a Gataxian Probe. Greg can decide now the fetch land interaction that you brought up if he wants to keep Gataxian Probe or sack the Verdant Catacombs, but he elects to keep it, robing Jason, and we're going to get some information.
Paying the 2 life is nice, but he really wants to know what he's playing against. When you have to deal with Force of Will, Daze, Stifle, who knows what in the sideboard, it's just super valuable to have that info.
And we're looking here at 2 Dazes, a Grim Lavamancer, and a Lightning Bolt.
2 Dazes is real good to know about.
Absolutely. As Greg is trying to get his life total low, of course, as fast as he can for Death Shadow. But again, you don't want to get your life not low enough so the Grim Lavamancer and Lightning Bolt can kill it, but you don't want to get it low enough so the Grim Lavamancer and Lightning Bolt can kill you.
Sick. Totally awesome. So what do you think he's going to get here? Underground Sea or another Watery Grave?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. And it's funny to me that basically not even in the question. Like,
it might.
No chance that it's going to be a basic.
Yeah, I think it's either Underground Sea or Watery Grave.
Especially after
he passed over an Underground Sea. It is a Watery Grave.
It is a Watery Grave.
That is a sure sign that he's on the Death Shadow plan real soon.
He's got himself down to 11 right now, so Death Shadow is going to be a 1/1 at this point. We're looking at a Scalding Tarn in play as well, so it looks like it's going to be a 2/2. And we see our first Death Shadow.
At 2/2.
At 2/2.
Now, is he doing this to try to bait Jason into Grim Lavamancing it so that he can fetch? It's probably not going to happen, but...
That's a good question. Now, Jason's considering his options. Am I going to daze these? Is there any merit to dazing? Double dazing? Does that do anything? He can pay both times. Well, what does that do for me?
Now, it's interesting. Hatch is not playing his second Death Shadow because he knows Jason has 2 Dazes in hand.
Jason draws a Wooded Foothills.
More fuel for the Lavamancer, which is super important.
Also turning on, as we see a Grim Lavamancer get played here, also turning on his green cards now too.
Yes.
So if he is to draw a Tarmogoyf for a Nibble Mongoose, he can cast them now. He could not do that before. Gataxian Probe from Hatch.
Now,
can't respond to the life loss.
no. Nope. Which is interesting that he did not bolt the Death Shadow when he had the chance. I think that may be a costly mistake.
And now we're going to see a big card right now. Great draw off of the Gataxian Probe for Hatch. There is a Hymnotorak in his hand. And he can pay for both Dazes as well.
And which means you don't do it, because then you'd lose both land.
Yep.
Man, he needed to bolt that Death Shadow when he had the chance.
We're going to see a Lightning Bolt. Looks to be going upstairs.
Wow. I like it.
And he's just going to discard both Dazes.
That knocks Hatch to 6. The Lavamancer threatening to go get a Volcanic, shoot, and then shoot twice next turn. The board is lethal. Hatch is beat.
Hatch is coming in.
Wow. So if he attacks for 10, the fetch land puts him at... Wow, so he can actually crack his own fetch land to make it so that Jason can't crack his fetch land, which means that Jason will be a mana short of being able to kill him for one more turn. And because he'll be a mana short, he might actually have to chump with one Lavamancer and shoot the Delver, which will make him be a card short of being able to actually shoot Hatch. Wow. This is a battle.
This is surreal. So how big is that Death Shadow?
7/7.
7/7.
And the Delver is 10 damage. The fetch land makes 11, which isn't lethal, but makes him unable to Wooded Foothills.
Yeah, makes him unable to Wooded Foothills to shoot him end of turn.
Right, which means next turn he'll only get 2 shots, and he needs the full 3 in order to kill him straight away. And if he waits, then he'll have to shoot the Delver.
Yep.
And he'll have to chump the Death Shadow.
And if he's chumping, that means there's enough activations to be able to actually kill him.
But if he he has a ton of live draws, because the bottleneck is he just has to get cards into his yard to be able to fuel the Lavamancer. Because next turn, one Lavamancer can chump the Death Shadow, shoot the Delver, the other Lavamancer shoot Hatch. As long as he can put another card in his graveyard, he can untap again and shoot again.
Oh my. And you saw us cut to Greg Hatch.
But he's going to be 1 life total short.
Yep.
He's going to be 1 short, because Hatch will be at 5 from the Scalding Tarn. Next turn, his Insect will get shot, and he'll get 1 shot from the Lavamancer, putting him at 3. Next turn, the Lavamancer will have to chump the Death Shadow, shoot again. Hatch will be at 1. Jason needs to draw something, or else he's going to lose the race now, assuming that all the players make this unfold as we expect. Yep,
So,
Hatch sees the line.
Hatch sees the line. Hatch is going to put him down to 1 life with the Death Shadow here, because it looks as though Jason has declared no blocks.
And the funny thing is, that means the Wooded Foothill is not actually going to be able to give him green mana, which means that Nimble Mongoose and Tarmogoyf are not blockers.
So we see a handshake. We'll get confirmation on exactly what happened there, because I'm not entirely sure. Now, Hatch looks disappointed.
It looks like Hatch lost. What just happened?
Oh, we're going to find out. Yeah, he looks very disappointed.
Why did he scoop? Was the life total correct? Yeah, was Hatch at 6?
I'm not sure. Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, you can tell, yeah, Greg conceded. You can tell that he is the unhappy of the two.
Yeah, maybe we have to get confirmation that Greg's life total is actually 6.
And that Jason's was actually 12. But I mean, we were tracking it closely enough that I believe that those were correct. The life total changes in those games were, I mean, pretty obvious.
Do you think Hatch just thought that he was beat because he wasn't going to kill Jason and forgot that Jason doesn't have the mana to kill Hatch?
Yeah, I feel like that may be what it is. I'm definitely going to go talk to Greg after this match when we take our short break, because I want to find out exactly what happened there. Because I can see the gears turning, see exactly what happened.
Do we have confirmation on the floor?
He thought he was dead.
Greg Hatch? Yeah, he forgot that his opponent's fetch land doesn't make mana. Hatch had the win on board and conceded because he forgot that his opponent couldn't fetch at 1 life.